All right, if statements. So if statements unlock an exponential amount of things that you can create. If you've done any programming before, you've probably used if statements because you can't do much without if statements. So it's best we learn it now, and it unlocks so much for us in terms of the type of programs we can make. Your computer is basically just a bunch of if statements. Like, that's, your computer's stupid, and that's really all it's doing. So if we can make if statements, we can basically communicate directly with our computer, and therefore we can create some really cool programs. All right, I'm not going to do too much fancy stuff here. I'll just show you the new stuff. So if statements are JavaScript. So if we want to have an if statement in our program, we have to put it in our script file, or if you were doing internal, but we're not. So this is what an if statement looks like. Easy. The word if, put your condition in there, and whatever you want to happen goes inside these curly braces. So the trick is, well, we need to fill these things up. So in the simplest sense, an if statement checks if something is true. So for example, as easy as it gets, I could check if 10 is equal to 10. That's a really silly condition, one that you wouldn't see in an actual program. But this is checking if 10 is equal to 10. And if it is, if this condition is true, which it is, any code we write in here will happen. So let's keep it simple. How about the only code I want to happen is just a simple console log. So if I run my program now, this condition should be true, and therefore we should see this console statement. Who would have thought? Open up my console, there it is. This if statement is true. If this if statement wasn't true, for example, if we were checking if 10 was equal to 11, we shouldn't see that console statement. And we don't. Because if this isn't true, then none of the code we put in here gets activated. When we're checking if something's equal, we use a double equal sign. I don't know if I mentioned that, probably should. But we can use all types of math operators. We could check if something is greater than a number. So this is saying if 10 is greater than 11. Certainly 10 is not greater than 11, so we shouldn't see anything. But 10 is certainly less than 11. This is a true statement, so this line of code should happen. And there it is right there. Now, you would almost never hard code hard code numbers in an if statement. You would probably use variables. So let's say I set up my website to get the age of the user who is using my website. We don't have to go through all that because we've done it quite a bit. Maybe I'm creating a website for Call of Duty, and I'm legally only allowed to show them the website if they're above 18 because the game's rated M. Obviously, the user's going to lie to me, but I have to set this up for legality reasons. So I've got the user's age. They've told me it. I'm storing it in a variable. So I could use an if statement to check if they were above 18. So I could say if the age that they've given me, if this variable is greater than 18, you can view this content. So right now user age is set to 16. 16 certainly is not greater than 18. So this condition is not true. Therefore, we don't see anything. They could be, what if the user was 18? They should be able to see the website, right? Because it's 18 and up. Well, this still won't fire because user age, even though it's 18, 18 is not greater than 18. We don't want that to happen. They should be able to see the website. So what you can do is you can use one of these greater than or equal to. So this means you can be equal to 18 and you can be anything bigger than 18. So this condition will be true. I can view this content. Not terribly good programming practice right here, but I shouldn't just leave the user in the dust if they are underage, less than 18. So I could have a separate if statement to check if they are less than 18. And I could tell them, you cannot view this content, instead of just leaving them in the dark. So if they are over 18, I will see this. And if they are under 18, oops, that should be less than 18. If they are under 18, they will see this. So now we've created a situation where it's kind of one or the other. So if my user's 18, you can view this content. But if that user told me they were 14, you cannot view this content. So now they're getting feedback one way or another. This is good programming practice, but it's not. I'll show you in the future a better way to handle this situation. But let's not worry about that right now. I could use two variables. This is not necessarily good programming either, just putting an 18 in there. I could make my own variable called legal age, and I could set it to be 18. Then in my if statement, I could say, hey, is the user's age greater than the legal age? Or is the user actually less than the legal age? My program will still function the exact same, except imagine if I had a bunch of if statements that was using the legal age value. Well, instead of having to rewrite my code if I wanted to change stuff, all I would have to do is just change the value of my legal age variable. So for example, if the legal age was 19, if I was in a different province, all I would have to do is put a 19 there. And all of these if statements will work accordingly. That's a bit nitpicky. Some good programming principles, not really something I'm too concerned about for this course, but just something you should be aware of. And last thing I want to talk about, if statements, I said, unlock a wide variety of programs you can create, as well as random numbers. Randomization is everywhere, especially in games and stuff like that. This is a lot easier. If I wanted to make a random number, I certainly couldn't just say a random number is equal to 50. That's not a random number. I just hard-coded that. I want to figure out a way to generate a random number. And if you've programmed before, you've probably generated random numbers. And in my opinion, JavaScript's got the most annoying way to generate a random number. The best way is to have a variable to store this random number. And if you actually want to create a random number or generate one, you can use the for method of the math class, open up a set of empty parentheses, and you can go math.random, another set of empty parentheses, times, this means multiply, that's Shift 8 on your keyboard. And then you get to specify, okay, this will give me a random number from 0 to whatever number you want to put here. So if I wanted a random number from 0 to 100, you might think you'd put 100, but you actually have to go one above. So you have to actually go 101. So this line of code will actually give you a random number between 0 and 100. And to make sure it's working, it's probably always a good idea to console log this so that we can actually see what this random number was. So if there's blue eyes there. If I fire up my website, the random number was 85. Now it's 31. Now it's 22, 34. So each time I'm refreshing my website, all of this code is happening, and I'm getting a random number between 0 and 100. These two tools will allow you to create some pretty cool websites. So it's best we cover them now.